Nigel Richards knows more Scrabble words than any other player, evidenced by plays like pernoctated and chlorodyne that no one else would ever find. And that's just in English. If you factor in French, nobody's even close. Nigel doesn't do interviews, but in a very rare exception, he once gave this answer when asked for the secret to his success.
I'm not sure there is a secret, just a matter of learning the words.
There's no other way to put it. This simply is not true. Yes, learning the words is critical, but Nigel also plays Scrabble with amazing creativity, even with short words that most tournament players know. Some of the best examples of this are his setup plays, where he deliberately passes up points in the present to set up even more points in the future. In this video, I'm going to showcase some of my favorite Nigel setups for you to enjoy. First up is a game between Nigel and veteran player Mark Keenis at the 2009 World Championship. Holding a solid lead, even after Mark's bingo of Red Tail, Nigel can play Prey to the triple for 36, leaving his Z for next turn and denying Mark the ability to use that spot himself. Instead, he plays Alapa for only 18. With a lead, it's nice to block the G and R of Grex. More importantly, this move creates a giant spot for his Z to score 60 points. Alapa also looks like a vowel dump, using 3 A's at once. So when Mark answers with Crib for 33, Nigel draws the vowels he needs to answer with Zek for 67, cashing in his setup. Next up, facing the legendary Thai world champion Pakorn in a regional tournament in 2012, Nigel finds himself in an even game after Pakorn's bingo of Isleman. This bingo opens a triple word score for Nigel to use, and most experts would play the top scoring Nur for 39 without much thought. Nigel instead plays Hun for only 28. His thinking here is that after Hun, he'll have the opportunity to hook his K, forming Hunk, and play something extremely damaging into the lower right triple. Other hooks to Hun, like the S and T, don't mesh very well with the N of Isleman, and plays like Gnaw or Nat are also unlikely, given that Nigel holds one of the 3 Gs and another one is already on the board. Pakorn responds with Fovea for 25, a great option to shed his F and V and leave the dynamic ES combination for next turn. If he sensed that Nigel might have the K, he might have been better off blocking the area with Vene for 32 instead. As it turns out, Nigel draws a U and cashes in his setup play with Nur for 55 points. 1 year earlier at the World Scrabble Championship, Nigel faced Pakorn in a critical late round game. After Pakorn's Nihil for 33, he's down by over 50. He could trim this deficit quickly with his top scoring move of Durzy hooking Impaved for 40. Surprisingly, he plays Brute for only 16. This move leaves DIZ on his rack, exactly the 3 tiles he needs to threaten Dits for 72. But take a look at Pakorn's previous play of Nihil, which includes an I. Nigel knows that if Pakorn had held the Q, he would surely have played Chi for 44 points atop Befits instead. This means the Q is slightly likelier than usual from Nigel's perspective to still be lurking in the bag. While Durzy blocks this Q spot, Brute leaves it open. When Pakorn plays down low, Nigel will get his follow-up of Dits for 72 next turn. When Pakorn blocks the upper right triple and Nigel draws the Q, he'll play it for 44 points while setting up a new spot for his Z in the process. Although Pakorn senses a trap and blocks the entire top right with Guilt for 16, Nigel draws ALR blank and plays the stunning and appropriate Wizardry for 113. Sometimes setup plays have unexpected outcomes. There have been so many epic games between Nigel and Pakorn in Scrabble history, and I'll definitely be covering more of them in the future. So before we get to the next Nigel setup, if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. Moving on, at the 2013 World Championship, Nigel faced another decorated Thai player in Gomon, who plays Hokey for 45 to take a small lead in the early going. Holding the X, Nigel can play jeu for 34, keeping a balanced leave. Instead, he leaves his X off of this move for only 10 points. Holding CEOTX, he can draw any of the remaining Ds or Rs to play Codex or Cortex for 96 points apiece. Keep in mind that jeu does not pluralize with an S, so even though Gomon is likely to quickly figure out what Nigel is up to, it's extremely difficult for him to block. In fact, with this triple word score wide open to use, any blocks of the X hook will likely require him to sacrifice a huge number of points. In this particular case, Gomon has one of the best possible racks with which he can block the setup and score a solid number of points. He plays Mac, hooking Chokey for a very respectable 35 points. Nigel draws the R, and while he would have had Cortex for 96 had Gomon not blocked, he still manages to get down Exact for 73, cashing in his X for a score on par with a bingo. Lastly, in this neck-and-neck battle with veteran Thai player Jerry Carter, Nigel has a standout scoring play in Kazi for 48, and if he wants to set up his S, he can do so by slotting this word up one space, sacrificing 4 points to create heavy-hitting S-hook follow-ups. Instead, he plays Cab for only 30. This sets up his S as well, but it also gives him Za for 48 at a minimum as another possible option. Of course, there's one S lurking in the unseen tiles, and Jerry has it. He plays Vows and Cabs for 44, denying Nigel both of his follow-up options, and Nigel draws 3 vowels to his balanced leave. Here, he has a few good options, like AI for 20, dumping 2 vowels, or even Aya for 9, setting up his Z again. Nigel's choice here is Fa for just 6 points. After Jerry plays his S, Nigel knows that he now has the last one, so the Fa's hook can only benefit him. All 6 ends for the archaic Fawn hook are also already on the board. And of course, this move creates another gigantic Z spot for a 62-point bomb. As setups go, it is relatively obvious, and Jerry does well to block the Z spot and at least partially obstruct the S hook with Fa for 33. Drawing 2 consonants after Fa balances Nigel's rack again, and he can play Biz or Azo, keeping a strong leave and trying to draw for S bingos hooking Ski or EST bingos hooking Teepee. Nigel's choice here is the absolutely brilliant Babies for 37. The key to this play hinges on the fact that baby isn't just a verb in Scrabble, it's also an adjective. And Nigel holds the 6th and final T to hook babyist, playing down into the triple. If Jerry doesn't have the X, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to block the setup while also scoring well. And Nigel's odds of drawing an 80-point play in this spot are excellent, given the unseen tiles. He's extremely likely to draw at least one of Zeta, Zati, Ziti, and the alternate spelling of Ziti. Even plays like Lutz and Ditz would be damaging as well. Without an I or O to play under the S and without the X, Jerry's best block of the spot scores only 10 points, so he plays Amma for 31, setting up his L hook for Llama. And after drawing IE, Nigel answers with ZD for 80 to essentially clinch the game on the spot, winding up with a 437 to 415 win. I hope you enjoyed these amazing setup plays by Nigel. They really do show that his Scrabble abilities go so far beyond just knowing all the words. I've got more episodes in this series coming in the future, so look out for those sometime soon. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.